Fluffy's masterpiece, Chaos on Canvas. Prologue, Boredom breeds genius. The humans were in one of their peculiar moods again. Sharon and Tim called it redecorating. I called it a giant invitation to chaos. Piles of fabric samples, buckets of paint, brushes, rollers, and other tools were strewn about the living room. The furniture was pushed to the center, revealing neglected corners filled with forgotten dust bunnies and, oh, jackpot, a stray hair tie. From my perch on top of the bookshelf, I watched Sharon climb a ladder to tape edges around the ceiling. Tim was busy shaking paint cans. Every so often they'd exchange some nonsense about color theory or accent walls. I yawned dramatically, catching Sharon's eye. "Fluffy," she warned, "don't even think about it." I blinked innocently. Me. Think about causing trouble. Never. Chapter 1. An empty canvas. The moment Sharon and Tim left, I sprang into action. They muttered something about grabbing more brushes and drop cloths, details I didn't care about. What mattered was that the house and all its tempting supplies were mine. I jumped onto the couch, which was wrapped in a slippery plastic cover. My claws snagged on it, and with a mighty leap I landed on the coffee table. A precariously perched paint can wobbled but didn't fall. Not yet. I sniffed around, inspecting their setup. It was a mess of colors and tools, the perfect playground for a mischievous genius like myself. Humans call this decorating. Looks more like a nesting ground for chaos, I thought, flicking my tail. A particularly inviting blue paint can sat slightly open, its lid barely covering the top. I extended a paw and batted at it. The lid popped off with a satisfying plop, and the room seemed to hold its breath. The rich, gooey paint beckoned me. Before I could stop myself, who am I kidding? I had no intention of stopping. I plunged a paw into the can. The cool, viscous liquid squished delightfully between my toes. Chapter 2. The artist emerges. It started innocently enough. I left a few paw prints on the top. A swipe here, a stomp there. But soon the creative spirit took hold of me. I tipped the blue paint can over, letting the liquid pour out in a slow, hypnotic river. I stepped into the puddle and strutted across the room like I was walking the runway at a feline fashion show. Next, I targeted the yellow. This can was sealed tight, but nothing escapes Fluffy's determination. With a strategic nudge and a swipe, the lid flew off, and a splash of bright sunshine yellow joined the chaos. A splash here, a paw print there. This is art, darling. As the colors mixed, I leapt onto the ladder. It wobbled dangerously, but I wasn't deterred. From this vantage point, I could see my masterpiece taking shape. With a mighty swipe of my tail, I knocked over a roller tray filled with red paint. The roller itself flew across the room, smacking against the wall and leaving a dramatic streak. Sharon says I'm a mess, but she calls it abstract when humans do it, I mused, admiring my handiwork. Chapter 3. Destruction and Discovery. The sofa, wrapped in its plastic cover, was my next victim. I leapt onto it, leaving smudges of paint on the once pristine material. But I didn't stop there. I tore into the plastic, shredding it like a lion with its prey. Underneath, I found my true prize, the perfect hiding spot. That's when I felt it, a familiar, unavoidable sensation. Nature was calling, and the litter box was far too boring for an artist of my caliber. I surveyed the room for an appropriate spot, and my eyes landed on the corner behind the sofa. It was secluded, undisturbed, and practically begging for a statement piece. I strutted over, flicking my colorful tail. Modern art isn't complete without a bold statement piece, I thought, squatting in the shadows. Chapter 4. The Unexpected Medium. Relieved and inspired, I returned to my work. My fur was now a kaleidoscope of colors, blue streaks on my back, yellow smudges on my belly, and a particularly dramatic red splatter across my face. But something was missing. Something bold, something daring. I eyed the ladder again. This time I climbed all the way to the top, balancing precariously as I swatted at the open can of mint green paint. It tipped and fell, splattering across the ceiling in a spectacular arc. Perfection, I thought, purring contentedly. From the ladder I made a leap of faith, landing squarely in a tray of purple paint. The tray slid across the floor, taking me with it. I crashed into the coffee table, sending brushes, rags, and another can of paint flying. Chapter 5. The Reckoning. The sound of the front door opening jolted me from my artistic trance. "Fluffy, we're—" Sharon's voice cut off mid-sentence. I turned slowly, paint dripping from my whiskers, to see Sharon and Tim frozen in the doorway. "What the—" Sharon shrieked, dropping her bags. Tim stared, slack-jawed, at the rainbow-colored disaster before him. "Fluffy, what the hell happened here?" I sat proudly in the center of my masterpiece, licking a paw as if nothing was amiss. "What's the big deal? Paint washes off." Well, maybe not the ceiling, I thought, glancing upward at the green splatter. Sharon stormed toward me, but her foot slid on the tarp, sending her stumbling into the sofa. Her face twisted in confusion. "Tim," she said slowly, "do you smell that?" Tim's eyes widened as he approached the corner. "Oh, no, 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 no." They discovered my statement piece behind the sofa, and Sharon let out a noise somewhere between a groan and a scream. "He pooped behind the couch," she wailed. Tim tried to suppress a laugh but failed. "Well, you can't say he's not committed to his art. He's like Picasso, but stinkier." Chapter 6. Fluffy's Reflection. As Sharon and Tim scrambled to clean up, I retreated to my perch on the bookshelf, watching the chaos unfold. Sharon scrubbed at the walls, muttering under her breath, while Tim attempted to salvage what he could of the tarp. "Why does he always do this when we're not home?" Sharon grumbled, glaring up at me. Tim shook his head, grinning. "Because he's Fluffy, and Fluffy doesn't follow rules. He makes them." I stretched luxuriously, letting the fading sunlight highlight the streaks of paint still clinging to my fur. The living room was a disaster zone, but it was my disaster zone. One day, humans will hang my work in museums, but for now I'll settle for driving Sharon and Tim insane, I thought smugly. As they cleaned, I began to doze off, dreaming of my next masterpiece. After all, true art can never be contained.